There are a number of reasons why the fuel prices in Kenya are increasing or why they are high. And in this video, I want to share with you 3 of those reasons. And this is not in any way trying to justify the high prices of petroleum products in Kenya, but it is an attempt for me to try to help you understand why we are in the current situation that we are in at the moment. And I am fully aware that this is not a situation that you are happy about. It is going to affect you in quite a number of ways, even making your life a little bit harder or even harder than it is at the moment. But the reason why we are seeing this trend of increasing prices when it comes to the petroleum products in Kenya is both internal as well as external. And so the first reason why the fuel prices in Kenya are high at the moment is because there are tensions in Middle East. And this is a reason that is not internal. It is something that is happening elsewhere that is affecting us here in Kenya when it comes to fuel prices. And the reason why this is an issue is because you need to understand how the geopolitics affect the prices of crude oil internationally. And Kenya being a net importer of petroleum products, which means that we import everything that we use when it comes to petroleum products. That means that international prices are actually going to affect us. And any issue that affects that kind of pricing when it comes to crude oil prices, it is also going to impact on the prices that we have in Kenya. And the tension that we are seeing or that we have in Middle East has been brought about because of this ongoing conflict between United States and Israel on one side and Iran on the other side. And that has affected the flow of crude oil or natural gas into the international market. And this is because where Iran is located is within the Persian Gulf, and over 20% of global crude oil supply comes from that particular region. And when you have the Strait of Hormuz, I'm sure you have heard that name several times by now, is affected or is closed, or the flow of vessels there is restricted, then it becomes a problem. And so that particular tension, that particular issue that is happening far away from Kenya is one of the reasons why the fuel prices in Kenya continue to increase, and will continue to increase as long as that particular tension exists. As long as there is a conflict in that region, the prices of fuel in Kenya will continue going up until it is settled. If this is the first time that you and I are meeting, I am Joe, and on this YouTube channel, I talk about oil and gas, and especially the opportunities that you can get across the oil and gas value chain, in particular within the upstream sector. And if you do want to learn more about this, I have a newsletter, and I'll put a link in the description below where you can be able to join this particular community. The second reason why the fuel prices in Kenya are high or continue to rise is because of the global supply shocks that exist in the market at the moment. Like I mentioned, we are a net importer of petroleum products. We import everything that we consume. And with the Strait of Hormuz having restrictions, and with the flow of oil and gas commodities across the world being restricted, because now about 20% of what the world consumes is not moving out of the Persian Gulf. When that is affected, when vessels cannot move freely across the world, that is going to impact Kenya directly, because we do not have supply on a regular basis as we would when things are normal. And when you have a supply chain kind of a situation that makes things a little bit difficult, it also increases cost of things like insurance. The risks are a little bit higher, especially when you consider that some of these vessels cannot actually be able to go through the Strait of Hormuz. And the risk is too high, the insurance is high, the logistics become more expensive, And all those expenses that increase because of that supply disruption is being transferred to you as a consumer. So when the fuel or the petroleum products dock in Mombasa, or when they arrive in Mombasa, they have that added element into their pricing. And that is going to come from your pocket. And the way the pricing is actually calibrated or fixed in Kenya, being regulated by EPRA, it means that there are certain parameter or there are certain elements that will always be part of that pricing model. So those that are local, what goes to the oil marketing companies, taxes and all that, those are sort of kind of fixed when it comes to the Kenyan market. And then when you add the cost that comes with the bringing the products to Kenya, it becomes obvious that a supply disruption in the international market is going to affect the final price that you and I are going to pay. And I'm almost 100% sure that you understand this particular idea, because if I was to give an example using cabbages, when there is a disruption on the supply chain of cabbages, meaning how the cabbages are moving from the farm to the market is affected, the prices go high. When the road is blocked, when it rains, when there are all those issues, you end up paying more for the cabbage at the market. This is a similar situation when it comes to the oil and gas commodities across the world. When there is a disruption on how they move, it affects the price. It means that the cost of getting that particular commodity goes high. And that means that as a Kenyan, you are going to pay more for getting that particular commodity, because there is a disruption that has been affected by factors that are probably or actually are out of your control. The third reason why fuel prices are high in Kenya is because of taxation. And this is the point where I do not necessarily agree with the government people when they argue that there is nothing they can do about it when it comes to the petroleum prices that you have at the moment. This is because taxation is actually a local thing. We are the people who have increased the taxes of the petroleum products. And that is something that the parliament has done. They are the ones who have increased the taxation. They are the ones who have passed the law on the VAT on petroleum products. They are the ones who have increased the petroleum levy. So all the things that relate to tax are things that are local. And when the government tells you that they cannot do anything about the fuel prices, just know that they are lying. It's just that they do not want to touch those taxes because it's a source of revenue for the government. And they would probably not want to touch it because it would affect their planning, and especially now when they have securitized this particular levy, whereby they have used that levy or the taxes that they are charging on the petroleum products to borrow money. So it is a situation that is very difficult, and in a way I can understand where they are coming from. But at the same time, I don't think that is justified that Kenyans pay a lot of taxes on petroleum products, given that our economy hugely depends on the petroleum products to drive several sectors. When you think of transport sector, when you think of agriculture, when you think of manufacturing, when you think of aviation, there are quite a lot of industries that rely on petroleum products, whether petrol, jet fuel, diesel, to actually drive economic activity. And when you have high prices of petroleum products because of taxation, that affects you, that affects the consumer, including in as simple things as electricity bill. I'm sure very soon you are going to see your electricity bill going a little bit higher. Again, because of some of the power is generated using diesel, which has gone up. So taxation is actually, to me, one of the biggest things when it comes to fuel prices in Kenya, because it consumes almost 50% of the price that you are paying at the petrol station. So if you were to look at that 50% and reduce it, it would bring the prices of petroleum products lower by a huge margin. But that's a conversation that you probably need to bring to your attention of your member of parliament or your senator, because they are the one who create that law. They are the one who passes those laws. As you can see, taxation or the levies that is there in the petroleum sector actually affects the fuel prices in Kenya in a very big way. And it is my hope that, the government and the members of parliament can be able to review this particular law, try to come up with a solutions that is sustainable, that still generates tax revenue for the government, because yes, they need money to do other things, but at the same time, that is not punishing to the consumers of petroleum products in Kenya. That's a conversation probably for another day, but it's important for you to realize that those three things are contributing to the higher fuel prices that you are seeing in Kenya at the moment. Fuel prices in Kenya are always going to be a hot topic because they affect you directly. They are going to have an indirect impact on quite a number of sectors, and they're also going to increase the cost of living. And until such a time when we can be able to have a solution, or a permanent solution. For example, if we start producing the oil in Turkana, we can probably be able to refine it and be able to just process enough to solve or meet the domestic demand. And until such a time, we are going to have this, zig and zag when it comes to the fuel prices in Kenya. This is going to be it from me in this particular video, and I do hope that you have at least gotten some value from this conversation. If you do want to learn more about oil and gas, watch the video on your screen right now. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not, and I'm going to see you in my next video.